Hi, I'm Ashey Swartz, founder and CEO of Furious Minds. I'm here at DMEXCO in Cologne for Beat TV, and I happen to have the pleasure of being joined today by Randall Rothenberg, the president and CEO of IAB. He's come from New York to visit DMEXCO. Welcome, Randall.
Thank you, Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I would love to hear, given your sort of 30,000 foot view of the digital ad industry, your perceptions of the show and what have you thought of it and what's good, what's bad?
Well, my first impression is, boy, it's really big. My second impression is, yes, in fact, it's really big. And my third impression is, oh my God, there are a lot of people here. So it's been a terrific event. I think one of the things that has been surprising and gratifying is how many folks from around the world, industry leaders, have shown up here, and the quality of the conversations and the interactions has been as high as I've seen at any other show that we do at IAB or anybody else does elsewhere in the industry.
So you have a lot of initiatives going on in the States right now, like 3MS and Rising Stars, and there's a lot of things that sort of all of us in the industry are paying attention to because they're affecting a lot of growth potential. How do they play out in Europe? I mean, Europe's not a country, they're very distinctly different markets. What do those standards efforts mean here and how do they kind of manifest?
It's actually been pretty powerful, and it's been a bit of a surprise over the past 6 months. This is my third or fourth trip to Europe in 6 months, and the recognition, especially for 3MS, which for the uninitiated stands for Making Measurement Make Sense, has been striking. I mean, actually, more than striking, it's been profound. Pretty much every industry leader is aware and actually fairly educated about the effort that we're undertaking in the U.S. to finally, at long last, standardize audience metrics for digital advertising with a focus on brand metrics. And the reason it's important is fairly straightforward. One of the biggest gaps in our industry going back more than a decade is the lack of consensus about how to identify audiences, how to measure audiences, and especially how to measure brand impact among audiences. So that has kept the digital industry pretty much relegated to being a below the line, a direct response or promotional industry. Getting consensus around audience measurement and things like reach and frequency and things like what is the actual content of a GRP online is fundamental to giving brand marketers the comfort to bring brand advertising and brand budgets into digital environments. And everybody here recognizes that.
Well, and I think in Germany in particular, that would be incredibly valuable because of the fact that privacy is such an issue here, right? Things like cookies and targeting and retargeting, specifically across channels, is challenging. So marketers and agencies don't have the same sort of arsenal that we have in the U.S. to leverage digital as a performance-driven medium.
Well, it's very astute, and because most people, I think, in the world, and certainly in the U.S., have not recognized that our three major initiatives are basically tied at the hip to each other. They're Siamese triplets. One of them is 3MS, it's measurement, and getting standards for audience measurement. The second is our Rising Stars initiative, and that really is about literally and physically reshaping the canvas and the palette of digital advertising, so there's more opportunity for great brand storytelling in digital media. And the third is our self-regulatory initiative, the cross-industry initiative under the rubric of the DAA, the Digital Advertising Alliance, which is about giving consumers transparency, education, and control over how various kinds of consumer data are used. I mean, this combination of making sure there are privacy protections, making sure there are audience measurement standards, and making sure that brands can do great advertising online is the key to making digital media safe, welcoming, and profitable for brand advertisers and consumers alike.
Yeah, and I think the IAB plays a great role in getting ahead of that to make sure that it's not a reactive sort of response to consumer outcry, concerns about privacy, things like that. But it's great the initiatives are getting ahead of it. I would love just sort of to hear your observations or thoughts on. I mean, we're in Cologne, we're in Germany. Are there any other distinctive things that you've observed about the German market in particular, or otherwise, that you think that for our constituents in the U.S. and representing their brand clients about and thinking about going and entering the European markets, Germany in particular, that they need to be mindful of or they should consider that makes it exceptional when entering?
Well, I mean, you mentioned one. In Europe generally and in Germany in particular, the sensitivity to consumer privacy issues is even higher than it is in the United States. It's kind of a legacy of both the Nazi period and the communist period, and the real rawness over the keeping of dossiers and files on people. So I think one of the lessons for any company, digital company, coming to do business anywhere in Europe, but especially in Germany, is you have got to be transparent. You have got to be open. We have an incredible medium that does things that no other medium can do in terms of allowing back and forth conversation, in terms of allowing insights to be generated off of consumer interactions with media. But this cannot be thought of as a black box. You've got to continually explain the value of this to consumers and why it's a good thing, and tell them how it happens and what kind of value they're getting out of it. So I think, if we can learn how to do business in exactly the right, transparent way in a place like Germany, we'll actually be better at our businesses in the United States. So that, I think, is kind of lesson number one. There's another one, too, which I think is somewhat contrarian. In the U.S., we have tended to think of Europe, the first world, as kind of sclerotic, non-entrepreneurial, not really given over to independent growth and startups and things. But I will tell you, you wander the show floor at DMEXCO, and it puts the lie to that the minute you step inside. It is hundreds and hundreds of startup companies in every facet of the digital space, mostly from Germany, but also elsewhere in Europe. And you're basically seeing, I think, kind of right before your eyes, the invention of an entrepreneurial culture in the heart of the first world. And that's a really enlivening thing. I mean, it's a great and pleasantly shocking thing to see here.
Well, I'm very grateful for your time, and I'm hopeful that sort of the coverage that Beat's done this week and your participation, thank you for that, will encourage our colleagues to get over here next year, because I agree with you. I think it's a great event. It's an eye-opening event, and it's a great opportunity to understand that entering a local market should be as exciting and opportunistic as it should be scary and thoughtful. And here, in particular, is a demonstration that there's innovation in many other places.
But it's also important to recognize that, and this may come as a bit of a shock, especially to folks who are kind of engineers in Silicon Valley, one size does not fit all. I mean, IAB is involved in standards development, and there's a lot of opportunity for the globalization of standards in areas like measurement and advertising formats. But people need to remember that cultures differ, human responses differ, backgrounds differ, and so it's really kind of important to be here on the ground and recognize those differences and be adaptable. I think it's a very important thing for all our IAB member companies to remember when they leave the United States and try to do business in other places, that you got to be adaptable, and in adaptability is growth.
Great. That's great sage advice. Thank you, Randall. It was great. Thanks for joining us. Bye.